Alright, Exiles, it's time. We're bringing back the beloved Stormweaver for patch 0.3. It's your boy AP, and today I'm sharing my Path of Exile 2 Leaguestarter guide. Back in January, a lot of us had a fun time with Spark Stormweaver. I look back on that league quite fondly. Unfortunately, the nerf hammer came, and in 0.2 Dawn of the Hunt, we all had to pivot into other builds. I'm happy to say Stormweaver has been buffed and reworked, and is looking very powerful again. This is now one of the premier classes for spellcasters with an easy, no-fuss progression that just works from day one. So let's talk about what makes Stormweaver exciting in this upcoming patch. Why Stormweaver shines. Spells in general are buffed this patch, and a lot of that power comes from the new elemental infusions. Stormweaver is especially good at this because her ascendancies generate a ton of free infusion remnants. These remnants unlock hidden power in many skill gems. We don't have the final numbers yet, but we can safely assume they'll add a lot of flat base damage, the foundation that all damage scalers work off of. That means our Leaguestart can ride off these buffs for a huge amount of free power baked right into our gem setup. Now, as for the skills, Arc has huge potential because it's been massively buffed. It gained 50% more base damage, 50% more shock magnitude. It gained an infusion that stacks even more damage, and it also gained the projectile tag. Now this projectile tag is huge. It lets us scale Arc in a lot of the same ways we used to scale Spark back in the initial launch patch. Projectile damage nodes and gear obviously scale, but the real kicker is combo spells. Now Flame Wall can be used to add fire damage to Arc, and then the Flame Wall's infusion will also buff our lightning damage even further. We're going to use Orb of Storms as an easy infusion generator, and the most exciting spell for me is Mana Tempest. Now this is huge because it does require a projectile tag to get the benefits, and now that Arc has that tag, we will gain the split modifier. You guys know what that means? That means when Arc hits an enemy, it now splits into 3 arcs, and each of those arcs can chain 10 times. That's potentially 30 hits from a single cast. Absolutely insane clear potential. For bosses, we also have tools. Firestorm, when triple infused, should melt bosses. The Stormweaver Ascendancy can even raise the limit to 2 or even 3 Firestorms if we want. We can use Lightning Conduit as another huge nuke option for single target. There are other spells as well that you'll find in the written guide in the video description. Now, the Stormweaver Ascendancy tree has so many strong choices, it's not even clear which path will be the best until we're hands-on with the new patch. But that's a good thing, having all these options. Tired of rubber banding, lag spikes, or disconnects costing you the game? That's where ExitLag comes in. The connection boosting software I use myself for a smoother, more stable experience. Here's why ExitLag works. AI route optimization scans thousands of paths in real time to lock in the fastest connection to over 2,000 games worldwide. Multipath connection routes you across up to 4 paths simultaneously, so if one lags, the others will still keep you stable. A built-in diagnostics center analyzes your network to troubleshoot your issues, and as for performance boosts, the latest version even improves FPS stability, so you're not just fixing your ping, you're getting a smoother gameplay overall. Setup is simple. Just download ExitLag, create your account, and turn it on. In seconds, you'll feel the difference. Your connection just works. And right now is the best time to try it because ExitLag is running their Gamers Month sale with up to 72% off annual solo, duo, and squad plans. You actually get 50% off the annual plan where you pay for 6 months and get 6 months free. Quick note, this offer is exclusive to new subscriptions only, valid on the annual plans, not valid for renewals or upgrades. Just use code PRINCESS at checkout, it supports the channel, and is required to unlock the deal. Thanks again to ExitLag for sponsoring. Now back to the video. As for those Ascendancy options, I think Constant Gale, which grants us Arcane Surge, makes the most sense for our first point. This is a high value node, it gives us a little bit of damage and quality of life through increased cast speed, and it also gives us a lot more mana regen. Now GGG did state that on very high investment levels of gem level 20 and beyond, the cost of spells is going to be dramatically lower. However, throughout the campaign, I'm not sure the mana costs are going to be any better, and this is going to make it feel so much more comfortable. This seems like a no-brainer. The other no-brainer would be Strike Twice, especially if you're using Arc, which has lightning damage and a modifier to chance to shock. Shock was already buffed to last 8 seconds now, so it will be easier to maintain the double shocks, and this is just a nice damage boost here. After this, it starts to get a little bit more flexible. In the default guide, I suggest going Tempest Caller into Multiplying Squalls. Now, Tempest Caller grants us Elemental Storm. This is a skill we used on the initial Path of Exile launch, and it felt really nice. Back then, we used these Elemental Storms to inflict debuffs on enemies, such as Exposure. And we were sort of pigeonholed into doing that because you could only use the best supports on one skill, and in that case, we were using Spark. But now we can actually use every support as many times as we want. So we're going to have to do some testing and see, do we want to use this to inflict debuffs on enemies, or do we want to just try and scale the damage as high as possible? And we'll experiment with both. The main reason we're taking Tempest Caller is actually also to get Multiplying Squalls, which gives us +1 to limit for elemental skills. Now, this will give us double Orb of Storms, double Firestorm, as well as double Elemental Storm. And this is great because Orb of Storms obviously generates a lot of infusions. Firestorm should do massive damage to bosses, and the Elemental Storm is just a really nice skill that we unlocked previously. Now, some honorable mentions here are Storm's Recollection as well as Refracted Infusion. These are the new Ascendancy points that focus on remnants for infusions. We are an infusion-based build, and these will definitely be powerful. And we don't exactly know the full extent of how these infusions will feel because we don't have those numbers. When the League actually launches, it'll be a little bit more obvious. It's possible we'll take these instead of the Tempest Caller and Multiplying Squalls. It's possible we'll be able to drop Constant Gale for one of these. You don't need to take both of the infusions. You could take one if you wanted. And I'll keep you posted in real time how this ends up shaping out. Now, as for the guide and resources I'm going to provide, for this league, I'll have a full written guide of Mobalytics, and you can go ahead and favorite that page right now. I'll keep updating it as GGG leaks more info, and once the league actually launches on Friday, I'll refine the starter gems and tree with real gameplay feedback. I'll also have a Stormweaver YouTube playlist linked in the video description as well, which will have endgame transitions like possibly a high-budget Cold Spark guide. Now, this will come out as the league progresses, and you can expect video updates for the Leaguestarter as well as we refine the build. Now, if you want to ask me questions directly, I will be live streaming on Twitch throughout the season, and my Discord server has over 6,000 active PoE players, and that would be the #1 resource for anyone running Stormweaver. In-game, I use the chat channel Global8686, and you can join that as another place where you guys can connect with each other. Now, one thing I do want to touch on is just a quick recap in general of how spells were buffed in this upcoming patch. We can now run the same support gem across multiple skills, which means hybrid setups will shine. For example, Arc for clear, Firestorm, and Lightning Conduit for bossing, all of this can be powered by the strongest supports. Also, resistance reduction has been condensed into one generic elemental weakness curse, which is a straight up buff for multi-elemental setups like this one. And as for mana costs, those should be easier. At gem level 20, the costs are going to be lower, and Stormweaver even gets the Arcane Surge Ascendancy to smooth things out even further. Huge quality of life wins here. One thing I want to touch on is the comparison between Blood Mage versus Stormweaver, because a bunch of people have already asked me about this, and I think it's worth discussing here. Now, I was sincerely considering both for the league start. Blood Mage has the advantage where it scales crit damage really well, and it actually does so in a way that also scales its tankiness. So this is going to be very powerful, especially in the late game with high investment, but I think it's going to be a lot clunkier to get going as well, because Blood Mage innately forces you to spend your life to do damage, which creates problems because it's a life cost in addition to a mana cost. Now, Stormweaver, on the other hand, just solves your problems. For example, the very first Ascendancy point, Arcane Surge, is both a damage multiplier and also a mana solution. It has smooth progression with no downsides. It also gives us solutions to generate massive amount of infusions, and generating these really quickly and very often is going to be a huge source of free power. So while Blood Mage may shine later for advanced players with high investment, Stormweaver is the safer, smoother, and easier choice for a league start. And don't underestimate Stormweaver's top end either. Infusion synergies, as well as mana stacking, leave us with a ton of endgame scaling options as well. All this being said, I don't think you would be wrong for playing Blood Mage. I was pretty close to going with that myself. Over the next few days, I'll be doing a few practice runs live at twitch.tv/animeprincess. Just keep in mind, these buffs are not live yet, so Stormweaver is still weak in the current patch. But once Friday hits, we'll finally get to see this rework in action, and I think it's going to feel incredible. So hit the description for the guide links, hop in Discord if you want to theorycraft together, and I'll see you live on Twitch for Leaguestart. Exiles, Stormweaver is back.